Hi, so welcome to this video. In this video, we will see how we can transition between multiple worksheets in a single Google Sheet. So as you can see, we are having different worksheets, say 1, 2, 3, 4 like this in this Google Sheet. And in the previous video, if you remember, we had created a button and upon clicking the button, we were able to land on a particular worksheet among the multiple sheets. But in this video, we will not add a button because adding button to different sheets for going to the next sheet or maybe even the previous sheet. So having two buttons on each sheet will not be an optimal way to achieve this. So instead of doing that, we will first create a menu option here. So like you can see, there are multiple menu options here, which are by default given by Google Sheets. So we can even add our own customized option. Okay, so that option remains available. So as you can see, if we go from sheet 1 to sheet 2, 3, 4, so these options remain available. So the menu options will remain available. So irrespective of on what sheet we are on, right? Otherwise, whenever you'll create a new sheet, you would have to create two more buttons, maybe one for next page and one for previous page, and then assign the same script to those buttons as assigned in other pages. And that will not be an optimal way of doing this. So let's do this with the help of creating a menu option. Okay, so let's do this. First, we'll go to app script. So in app script, we will now have a default function which will just select all of this and delete. Now let's define our own function which executes on open. Okay, so function on open. Okay, and now in this function we will define what this function will do. So we want to add a menu option. So let's create a variable menu. Okay, and in this variable we will first get the spreadsheet UI. So we'll use spreadsheet app dot get UI, and then in the next line we'll define what that menu does or what does it contain. So we'll create the menu here. Okay, and sorry, this will be create menu. Okay, so this is create menu, and now we'll name this menu. Okay, so like these different menu options are having different names, like it is having a name file, this is edit view. So likewise we would also give a name to our menu option. So as we want to switch between the sheets, so let's give it a name switch. Otherwise you can give any name of your choice. Okay, so this is a menu which has been created, and now we want to add the items. That means the two options, one to go to the next page and other one to go to the previous page, right? So we will add menu item. Okay, so add item. Right, now in add item we have to pass two arguments. So the first argument is the name which we want to give to that menu item. That means under switch menu, what different items appear. So one of those items will be next sheet, right? And then we need to assign the function which should execute when we click on this option. So let's call that function as next sheet, right? And now let's add this to the UI. Okay, so add to UI. So we are done. Now let's save this function and see what happens upon saving it. So let's say this is a project called transition. Let's save this, and now let's run this. For the first time it would ask for authentication. So once we authenticate, we'll be able to see that here after help another menu item switch. So you can see that it has been created. Okay, and now if we see under switch menu option, we are having the option to go to next sheet. But if we click on this option right now, it would say script function not found, next sheet. So that's the function name which is not found to execute because we have not yet defined what this next sheet function does. Okay, and now let's define what this function does. So we basically want to go to the next sheet once we click on this function. Okay, so let's see how many sheets are we having and what's the sheet number. So this first sheet is, or the minimum or the lowest sheet number is 1, then 2, 3, 4, and so on. So at present we are having 4 sheets here, right, starting from sheet number 1 to 4. So we will now define the function next sheet. Okay, so let's start with the function next sheet. Okay, sorry, we need to first define this as a function. Okay, so this is function next sheet. Okay, so you can see, as we have already stated this function in the argument above, so it's giving a in help. So now let's define this function. So let's define a variable first of all. Okay, so let's call that variable as sheet num, sheet underscore num, right? So this sheet num function will actually give the number of the sheet on which we are currently. Okay, so we will get it from spreadsheet app dot get active spreadsheet dot active spreadsheet. Okay, then dot get active sheet, and okay, so let's put parenthesis here. Okay, so get active sheet dot get name. So it gets the name of the sheet, like we are having different sheets 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay, and now let's also define a variable to identify or to define the next sheet. Okay, so let's say we have another variable next sheet num. Okay, and this is basically, so we'll parse it as an integer. Okay, and we'll define the sheet num function, which we have a variable which we have already stated above. And now since we want to go to the next sheet, and we are having here basically the sheet numbers here are in the form of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So if you want to have such sheet numbers, you can use the exact code. Otherwise, if you are having some custom sheet numbers, then you may have to modify this code as per to your need. Okay, so let's say we are having the sheet numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. That means all are numeral. Okay, the sheet names basically, not numbers. So the sheet names are actually in the form of numbers, all are numerals. Okay, so we have defined two variables. One is to get the current sheet and other one is to get the next sheet, which is the current sheet defined by sheet num plus 1, right? So now let's put a condition. Now this will work well. Okay, but since we are having up to sheet number 4 right now, so we need to define once it reaches sheet number 4 what it should do. If we do not define it, then at sheet number 4, if we run this function next sheet, it will throw an error. Okay, and now we basically want that once it has reached the last sheet, and then we again click on the next sheet option, so it should go to the first sheet then, so in the round robin manner. Okay, so what will define here, that if we are on the last sheet. Okay, now last sheet number here is 4, so we'll say if next sheet num is equal to, is greater than 4. Okay, if it is greater than 4, then we want to actually bring the first sheet to it, and the first sheet is the sheet number 1. Okay, so we'll define it like this, right? And then we will activate, we'll define a variable activate. Okay, and this variable will basically activate the next sheet. Okay, so we'll use spreadsheet app dot get active spreadsheet dot get sheet by name. Now since our sheet names are as per numbers, okay, so and now we want to get the next sheet. Okay, so we'll use the next sheet num, okay, dot activate, right? And now we'll close this, and now let's try to run this function and see what happens, right? And before even doing that, let's just remove this for a while. Okay, and run this only. So let's authenticate. Advanced. Allow this. So we are done. So now let's try to go to sheet 1 first of all. We have landed on sheet 2. Again go to switch, press next sheet. We have landed on sheet 3. Again click, we'll land to sheet 4. Now if we click here, so you can see cannot read properties of null reading activate, because after sheet 4 there is no next sheet, there is no sheet 5. Okay, so what we'll do here, if we add this condition that if next sheet number is greater than 4, because the maximum, the highest sheet number is 4. So if it is greater than 4, then it should return the next sheet number, okay, which is 1. That is, it comes back to sheet number 1. Now if we save this, and now while we are at sheet number 4, and we click here, so you can see we have landed back to sheet number 1. Okay, that is what this if condition does. So if we are not having this if condition at the last sheet, this function will throw an error when we go to next sheet. So in order to bring it to the first sheet back, we will add this condition that if next sheet number is greater than 4, then it should come to sheet number 1. Otherwise it will activate the otherwise it will throw an error. Okay, so this is how we can achieve this. Now in case, let's say we are having another sheet which is say sheet number 5. Okay, now let's try to run this function again while we are at, say, start from switch number 3. Now this takes us to sheet number 4. Now if we again press this next sheet, now you'll see it's taking us back to sheet number 4. Sorry, from sheet number 4 it is taking us back to sheet number 1. Why? Because we have defined here this condition that if next sheet num is greater than 4, which is 5 in this case, so it takes us to sheet number 1. Okay, so it does not take us to sheet number 5. Instead of that, it is taking us to sheet number 1. Why? Because we have defined this condition. So we need to now update this to 5. So this should be actually a highest sheet number. Okay, then only this will return in a round robin manner. Otherwise, if you leave it like this, you can see that after sheet number 4 it goes to sheet number 1. Now if we'll do, it will go to sheet number 5, as you can see. And after switch, when we are at sheet number 5 or whatever our last sheet is, so now if we'll click here on next sheet, so it will take us back to sheet number 1. Okay, so thanks for watching this video. I'll add the next video where we will see how we can have another option where we can go to the previous sheet. Okay, in this video we have only covered that how we can go to the next sheet. So in the next video we'll see how we'll be able to go to the previous sheet as well. So thanks for watching and stay connected. Bye bye.